Step with me, if you dare, into the frostbitten fields of medieval Europe, where the wind howls like a restless spirit, and the earth itself seems to hold its breath. It's the 12th century, and survival is no guarantee. The winters are brutal, the summers fickle, and every harvest is a gamble with fate. Yet, in these harsh times, the people of Europe didn't just survive, they thrived. Thanks to a caste of humble crops that fueled their bodies and their dreams. Long before the potato sailed across the Atlantic to claim its place on European tables, there was another hero of the hearth, the parsnip. As a writer and historian, I've spent years poring over dusty manuscripts and walking the ghost-ridden paths of medieval villages. Today, I want to share with you the story of this forgotten root and the other crops that shaped a world. Let's begin with the parsnip, a vegetable so vital it was once as common as bread. Imagine a peasant family huddled around a smoky fire, their breath visible in the chill of a late winter evening. Their stores of grain are running low, and the promise of spring is still weeks away. But beneath the frozen ground lies a lifeline, the parsnip. This pale, carrot-like root wasn't just food, it was a miracle. It thrived in the poorest soils, where other crops would curl up and die. Its long taproot burrowing deep to find nutrients in dirt so barren it could make a farmer weep. Frost didn't scare it, it made parsnips sweeter, as if the cold were a chef seasoning them to perfection. In a world without refrigeration, parsnips could be left in the ground all winter, ready to be dug up when hunger knocked. Or they could be stored in cool cellars, lasting months without spoiling. For medieval families, a stockpile of parsnips was the difference between life and starvation. In the kitchen, parsnips were the ultimate shapeshifters. A peasant woman, her hands calloused from years of toil, might pull a bundle of parsnips from the earth and transform them into a meal that warmed both body and soul. She'd mash them into a creamy, sweet puree, roast them alongside a precious cut of meat to stretch the meal, or toss them into a stew to thicken it with their earthy flavor. In wealthier households, parsnips starred in desserts, their natural sweetness, a rare treat in an era before sugar was cheap. A medieval cookbook might describe them: boiled with honey and sprinkled with costly spices, served to impress a lord's guests. One medium parsnip delivered about 100 calories, a hearty dose of fiber, vitamin C, and potassium nutrients that kept peasants strong when bread was their only other sustenance. In the darkest winters, parsnips could make up a third of a family's diet. A quiet hero in a world of scarcity, parsnips weren't just food, they were woven into the fabric of medieval life. Farmers paid their lords or the church in sacks of parsnips, their harvests recorded in meticulous tax ledgers. Monasteries, those beacons of charity, grew vast fields of parsnips to feed the poor, handing out roots alongside prayers for salvation. To the medieval mind, parsnips were a promissory guarantee that, even in the bleakest months, there was something to eat. But when the potato arrived in the 16th century, with its higher yields and easier storage, the parsnip's reign ended. It faded into obscurity, a vegetable abandoned after centuries of service. Yet its story is just one thread in a larger tapestry, one that stretches back to the dawn of agriculture itself. Picture now a field not of roots, but of golden stalks swaying under a summer sun. This is emmer wheat, a grain so ancient it was cradled by the first farmers 10,000 years ago. By the Middle Ages, it was the heartbeat of Europe. Its dense, nutty loaves feeding everyone from plowmen to princes. Emmer didn't need coddling. It grew in rocky, nutrient-starved soils that would break a modern farmer's heart, producing harvests with tools so crude they barely scratched the earth. Wooden plows and unfertilized fields were no match for emmer's resilience, which delivered reliable yields year after year. Walk into a medieval village, and you'd hear the rhythmic thud of dough being kneaded, the scent of emmer bread wafting from communal ovens. A single loaf could provide up to 70% of a peasant's daily calories, fueling the labor that built cathedrals and tilled fields. Emmer's nutritional might was staggering: 30% more protein than modern wheat, plus a wealth of zinc, iron, and magnesium. Its bread was so dense you'd risk a tooth dropping it, but it gave workers the strength to haul stones or swing a scythe from dawn to dusk. This wasn't just food, it was the engine of medieval life. Emmer was currency. 2 peasants paid taxes in sacks of grain, carted to manor granaries or monastic storehouses. When harvests failed, the absence of emmer sparked riots, with villagers storming the streets to demand their daily bread. These weren't mere protests, they were battles for survival. In a world where a bad season could mean death, monasteries and castles kept vast emmer reserves, enough to feed hundreds through lean times. A testament to its role as a societal anchor. But emmer had a flaw: its tough husk clung tightly to the grain, making it harder to mill than the common wheat that began to replace it. As milling technology improved and agriculture prioritized efficiency, emmer was pushed aside. Its rich, complex flavor, praised by food historians, today was no match for the convenience of softer grains. Yet, its legacy endures in the faro dishes gracing modern menus. A quiet echo of the grain that once powered an era. As we leave the golden fields of emmer, another crop waits to tell its story. One that fueled not just bodies but the very muscles that built a civilization. Step into a medieval garden, where rows of broad-leaved plants nod in the breeze. These are fava beans, the protein powerhouses that sustained Europe long before meat was a daily luxury. From the humblest hovel to the grandest banquet hall, fava beans were a constant, uniting kings and peasants in their shared reliance. Archaeological digs find their remains everywhere: latrines, garbage pits, kitchen hearths, proof of their ubiquity. Why were they so vital? Efficiency. 1 acre of fava beans could yield 1,500 pounds of dried beans. Enough to provide 500 pounds of complete protein, sustaining 20 people for a year. Compare that to cattle, which needed 15 acres for the same protein. And you see why fava beans were a farmer's salvation. But their magic went deeper. Fava beans were soil healers, their roots hosting nitrogen-fixing bacteria that enriched the earth. Medieval farmers didn't know the science, but they saw the results: crops planted after fava beans grew stronger. This led to crop rotation, with beans alternating with grains to keep fields fertile. In some regions, laws mandated that every household grow fava beans, a kind of medieval health policy. Nutritionally, they were a marvel: 26% protein by weight, plus fiber, B vitamins, iron, and manganese. For those who couldn't afford meat, fava beans were the line between strength and starvation. In the kitchen, they were as versatile as parsnips, eaten fresh as a snack, boiled into stews, or mashed into patties fried in lard, a medieval veggie burger. During Lent, when meat was forbidden, fava beans were a godsend, sustaining monks and peasants alike. There was a shadow, though. Some, particularly those of Mediterranean descent, suffered from favism, a dangerous reaction to fava beans caused by a genetic condition. Medieval healers noted the illness but couldn't explain it, adding mystery to this indispensable crop. As meat production grew more efficient, fava beans faded, though they linger in traditional dishes across Europe and beyond. Their story, like those before it, is one of resilience. In a world where every harvest was a victory. But another crop, one with the speed of a lifesaver, waits to take the stage. Now, imagine a field planted in desperation, its seeds sown as a last hope against famine. This is buckwheat, the medieval fast food that could save a village in weeks. Despite its name, buckwheat isn't wheat, it's a seed, related to rhubarb, with a superpower: speed. While wheat took months to mature, buckwheat was ready in 10 to 12 weeks. A backup plan when other crops failed. It thrived in poor, acidic soils, growing where others faltered, its dense growth choking out weeds and its roots enriching the earth with phosphorus. Buckwheat was a multitasker, feeding people while healing the land. In medieval kitchens, buckwheat was a workhorse turned into porridge, pancakes, rustic bread, or dark, calorie-rich beer that fueled laborers. Its nutritional profile was stunning. Complete protein, antioxidants, and fiber that rivaled modern superfoods. A cup of buckwheat could outshine oatmeal, though no one was touting it on parchment scrolls. As agriculture industrialized, buckwheat was sidelined for crops with higher yields and better storage. Today, it's a premium superfood, a far cry from its role as the emergency grain of the Middle Ages. But as we leave these fields, 2 final crops beckon, each a testament to the ingenuity of those who came before us. Winter has settled over the medieval landscape, but in a corner of a village, A patch of dark green leaves defies the frost. This is good King Henry, a plant so tough it laughed at snow. Its spinach-like leaves, rich in vitamins A and C, staved off scurvy when fresh food was a memory. It grew wild near homes, needing little care, its shoots cooked like asparagus. Its leaves tossed into soups, its seeds ground into flour in desperate times. Nearby, barley fields stretched to the horizon, the grain that defined medieval life. Barley wasn't just food, it was breakfast, dinner, and the beer that washed it down. Grown in poor soils, it fed armies, became hardtack biscuits, and brewed into beer safer than tainted water. Women, known as alewives, turned surplus barley into profit, running medieval craft breweries. These crops parsnip, emmer, fava beans, buckwheat. Good King Henry and barley were the backbone of a world that knew hardship intimately. Today, as climate change challenges agriculture, their resilience offers hope. Farmers and chefs are reviving them, from farro on menus to beers made with ancient grains. Medieval peasants would marvel at their survival foods sold at premium prices. But they'd understand their worth. These crops didn't just feed a civilization, they built it. As we face an uncertain future, their wisdom calls to us, urging us to plant the seeds of sustainability. If you've enjoyed this journey through medieval fields, hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments. What forgotten crop would you bring back? Let's keep the conversation growing.